Welcome to Wild, Women in Lending Determined to Make an Impact. I'm your host, Robin Lavasser. They say our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate. It's being powerful beyond measure. In this podcast, I will share how to break through imaginary ceilings, lean into success, discovering your purpose, and understanding how to create the business and life of your dreams. From failures to triumphs and all the tactics in between, let's jump into the wild arena together. Welcome back to Wild with Robin Lavasser. I took a phone call from a loan officer this week that works for me, and it was an instant tears. And maybe you've never been there. Maybe it's been more of an anger or frustration, but this business can be incredibly pressure-based. There's a lot of frustration that can be built. There's a lot of expectation, if you will. And even though we are working our tails off and we try so hard, sometimes things don't go exactly as planned and it can feel very deflating. We're also dealing on all sides often with people that have a lot on the line, right? Real estate agents have their own commissions on the line. You know, you as a loan officer have a commission on the line. You've got maybe processing teams that have bonuses on the line. You've got clients that have moving trucks, if you will, and a lot of life. That is the most important, right? Both in sellers and buyers, what they have on the line in their own lives. And so that pressure is massive. And when they need a loan, all of that pressure really boils down to, can the lender come through? And so as I talked to this loan officer and the tears were flowing, and I call it the rookie season. And the rookie season is really kind of the first 10 years, in my opinion, of being a loan officer. Unfortunately, in lending in general, the typical course is that you learn often lessons through pain, right? Pain that happens creates the fastest change and correction. The more it hurts, the less likely it is to repeat. However, in order for something to not repeat, you have to understand the root cause of the problem and then say, how would I fix it, right? What can I do? What are some tactical things that I can do in my business to make sure that that doesn't happen again? And you then have something that is empowerment, but also ownership, right? A combination of both of those things. I am a massive fan of the 4 agreements. And the 4 agreements are something that I literally laminate, send out to all of my team players in our branch directly throughout the company, even to, just people in the industry, friends, family, because I believe in the 4 agreements so much. And when I'm out of alignment in my life, feeling those tears or those frustrations, I can generally step back, look at the 4 agreements and say, here's where I'm missing. Here's the one that I'm currently breaking. Sometimes I'm breaking multiple, if I'm being honest. But one of the 4 agreements that if you read through it, you're kind of like, yeah, that I want to focus on today is be impeccable with your word. And when you think about being impeccable with your word, it means to speak with integrity, say only what you actually mean, and avoid using your words to speak against yourself or others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And when you really think about that, our words are tools of creation, and they can build trust, they can attract business, they can strengthen relationships, or they can quietly erode them. Our words can quietly erode or they can build. In sales, leadership, life, all of the things, that single agreement almost shapes everything that we do. So I'm talking to this loan officer, and she's talking about how this realtor somewhat fired her. And she's like, it's my fault. I've had some really hard transactions. And I said, let's pause there for a minute. Can we profess that loans are hard? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, so I want us to reverse the statement that you've had some hard loans and that's why she fired you. What really has gone on is the lack of being impeccable with a word. And what I mean by that is I said, so when a borrower quits their job in the middle of a transaction and you have to completely flip the loan, find a way to do it if it's even salvageable. And so they had to end up taking it brokered to a, different documentation source, all of these things. So it's really like a complete start over. I said, when you knew that, did you set a proper expectation of when the new closing date would need to be? And she said, no. And so, gosh, we broke a 4 agreement. We weren't impeccable with our word. And what happens is, instead of saying, I need 25 days to close this with the new lender, we start to shorten to what we think the agent would want to hear. And what the agents really want to hear are referral partners in any business whatsoever. They want to hear the truth, but we get lost in making them happy versus remaining truthful. If you'll notice in being impeccable with your word, it doesn't say make people happy. It doesn't say go easy on yourself, right? It says speak in the direction of truth. And so when we can take a deep breath and step back for a minute and say, what's the direction of truth right now with my words? The truth is, I want to commit to one extension on this loan. And I want to make sure that we not only do we make that date, that we beat it, right? That we make it sooner than the actual closing date I'm resetting. I'm going to ask for this much in an extension, despite when an agent pushes back or anything like that. Now we'll dive into this a little bit. And so when you think about those kind of circumstances, I paused the loan officer and I said, you don't suck at this business. The agent kind of fired her, but really just said, I'm frustrated. I feel like we haven't hit the last few closings on time. Well, the truth is, there have been some circumstances, but she's been late even to the extension. Why? Because being impeccable with your word would have been speaking in truth. I said, did you know deep down inside that the extension wasn't long enough? She said, yes. Those are tough lessons to learn in the business. And then we think, gosh, I don't know how to do that because everybody's pushing so hard for something else. No, they really want the truth. But by nature, we're going to see how much we can get away with, if you will. And we're always going to want something sooner, faster, all of those things. But we will concede if it makes sense and an overall big picture will create less havoc, right? That will happen. And so, first of all, being impeccable with your word with yourself. What a huge, huge gift you can give yourself. And so I did this exercise today with our sales force, actually, and I asked them, what are the words that you say out loud or internally that hurt you, that erode trust with yourself? What do you tell yourself? There's the littlest things like, oh, I'll start making my prospecting calls at 9. And then you're scrolling on your phone or your email or doing other things until 9:30. You've broken agreement with yourself. You've already started the day not being impeccable with your word. When you say things like, I'm not good at social media, or somebody said, I'm so stupid when I make mistakes, right? There's all these negative words. They become your truth. And I don't think we realize the power of that on the day to day, even the minute to minute, hour by hour. And so instead, one of the exercises that I would challenge you is, what are the negative things that you're saying to yourself, maybe today alone, maybe this week, maybe this month, maybe this year, that you say over and over again? One of the people said, I'm just not good at tech. They say that all the time. Well, that hurts them ultimately because the world is becoming more and more and more tech savvy. So to say, I'm just not good at tech, you're speaking what you are building, right? And so, oh, you're saying, I'm going to refrain. Other things that were said, I'm too old to chase new agents. They won't want to work with me, right? I don't know my guidelines well enough. I suck at income calcs. There were a lot of things that people said that literally erode not what you want to build. You don't want to build a business that you suck at income calcs, that you're bad at tech, that you feel like you're, out of the realm of chasing new realtors. You're bugging realtors when you call them. All of these words are eroding what you want to build. Instead of saying, hey, let's reframe. And so one of the things I challenged everybody to do was pause and say, instead of I'm terrible at follow up, reframe is I'm becoming more consistent every day in my follow up. What a difference to say it that way, which is forward momentum versus stall, obstacle, backward, right? Erosion of what I'm trying to build. Very big deal. So that's being impeccable with your word. I call it the integrity mirror, if you will. Am I being integrous with my words, and am I looking in the mirror? And if someone said that to me, you're terrible at income, you're terrible at this, you're terrible at that, how would I feel if they were saying all of those words to me? And one of the funny metaphors that I gave to my team was, imagine if you called an agent and said, hey, I'm really bad at tech, I'm pretty bad at income calcs, but I'd love to have coffee with you. What if the very negative statements we were saying to ourselves were how we had to sell ourselves to somebody else? Wouldn't go very far. But the truth is, they're there. They're embedded seeds that you are allowing to be there, and then you will lack confidence in the sales that you're trying to deliver. How do you build trust with your referral partners? Well, I'll tell you what, your word is the currency of trust. Your word is the currency of trust. In our industry, your word is your brand. So if you tell a realtor, I'll get that pre-approval letter to you by tonight, I'll have it to you by 6 p.m. tonight. If you don't do that, and you know deep down inside you probably should have committed to it tomorrow morning by 9 and they're making an offer by 1, you all of a sudden look really bad when you didn't get over that night and you send it in the morning with an I'm sorry. It's not in alignment. And when you do that, they start chasing you down, and instantly, subconsciously, even for them, even if they understand and like you and know you and all these things, subconsciously they're going, I'm being let down right now. What's happening? Something must be wrong. Maybe I'm being lied to. Maybe they forgot about me, right? Because being impeccable with your word is not being perfect, it's being accountable. That's a very different statement, right? It's not perfect, it's being accountable to what you just said. Very big deal. So, one of the things that I say to people is, what's one thing you can do with your word to carry more weight with your word with your referral partners? Maybe you say, hey, some of the things I can do action wise, I'm going to send that update before they even ask. I'm going to follow through faster than they expected. I'm going to admit when I dropped the ball and tell them how I'm going to fix it. When you do those things, trust compounds faster than interest when your word consistently matches your action. Very big deal, right? Trust compounds faster than interest when your word consistently matches your action. Very, very big deal. I know that I have hurt myself for, gosh, I can't tell you how many years I lost sleep at night over poor expectation setting, over not being impeccable with my word. I still struggle with it. I think we all do as humans. I don't think there's a person on the planet that couldn't say, today I wasn't as impeccable with my word, maybe to myself, maybe to somebody else. It's not because we're good or bad people. It doesn't define our character, if you will, or morals or ethics. It's an incredible tool that you can use to build confidence all over the place and trust, or again, it can erode it. So very big deal. Not perfection, accountability. With clients, this is such a big one, and I do it's a separate podcast on some of these things, but our clients are emotional buyers of trust. That's for agents, anybody in sales, right? Someone is saying, I'm buying in and trusting what you're telling me. When you say things like, this is going to be great. I don't see any problems. This is going to go smooth. This will be fast. This isn't painful at all. When you're saying things like that, you're making sacred promises that you possibly can't keep. And here's what I know. Nobody likes doing a home loan. Nobody ever says, let me dig out all of my financials. Let me open the back of my closet and expose it to the world, if you will. Have somebody dig through bank statements and income and all of these things. Nobody enjoys it. So for years, I said to people, this is going to be great. Oh, that's not impeccable with my word. Instead, I would look at somebody and say, hey, the house is going to be great. And this journey that's very painful and you're likely going to hate every minute of it is going to be worth it when you get the keys. What a different way to tell somebody. And now I'm being impeccable with my word, right? Because when you can say things that will represent what actually will happen, which is inconvenience, evasive, borderline offensive. That's what lending does, right? They dig into people. Now all of a sudden you're in a very different spot. Now all of a sudden you're in a very different spot with them because you've told them the truth at the very beginning. And their expectations are, Robin said, I'd hate this. Robin said this would be hard. Robin said this would be emotional. She said it'd be invasive. She said it'd be borderline offensive. I understand how I'm feeling right now because there are those impeccable words up front of truth that now are building trust with me because I expected this. If I say, oh, it's going to be great, and all of a sudden they're like, this isn't great. This is awful. Why are they asking me again? What do they need now? This is inconvenient. I'm frustrated. Now all of a sudden we have a clash of expectation setting. And that's exactly what I told the loan officer. I said, if you set better expectations, you alleviate and eliminate so much of this. She said, gosh, I'm just not doing that well. Why don't we do it well when we're being honest if we're being honest with ourselves? Because we're people pleasers, right? By nature, we want happiness. We want joy. We judge ourselves on our intentions and others on their actions, right? And so we have the best of intentions with everything that we say. And yet we don't always follow through on it. And so when you think, and then there's the back of our mind voices that say another lender can do it faster, another lender can do it cheaper, another lender, right? And you hear those sometimes out loud from clients and realtors. And it is so easy to start to get on board with that instead of remaining impeccable with your word. So what's a tactic for that? If somebody says, I know this lender and they can close it in 2 weeks, and you know it's a deal, that it would be so painful to even attempt to close it in 2 weeks. You know for a fact, maybe the clients aren't tech savvy, maybe they travel a lot and are already disorganized with documentation, maybe the property looks very challenging. You know that 2 weeks is an overpromise. This is a defining moment every single day when you have choices like this. And what you can do is instead say, I'm going to rephrase the same response. Gosh, I understand that people can do it fast. And the truth is, we could likely close it that fast as well. But can I tell you the truth of what that looks like? And so when you can stay in truth and you can stay calm and you can stay confident, but you can remain impeccable to your word, people go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm glad you said something. I'm glad you shared that with me. And all of a sudden, your trust factor shoots through the roof because someone else is just, this is going to be awesome. It's like nobody explaining to you that, hey, when you go to Disneyland, yes, you're going to make memories of a lifetime, but it's expensive. The long lines, there is definitely some things that are a pain. Your feet will likely hurt at the end of the day. The kids get fussy, right? There's a lot going on. It's normally too hot or too cold on any given day. There's a lot. It's not like you don't know those things, but if I know them up front, I don't walk in the door and go, I can't believe the cost of this food. I can't believe how long the lines are. I can't believe the amount of crowds. I can't believe any of this. Now all of a sudden somebody wasn't impeccable with their word. Disney doesn't say, we promise you short lines. We promise you this. We promise you this. They just say it's the happiest overall place on earth. You're going to enjoy the crud out of it, right? And they do everything they can to make sure that that part happens, but they don't really say that all these other things are going to take place. That's okay. But they for sure make sure that, yeah, you kind of do feel like Disney is the happiest place on earth, at least if you're a Disney fan like I am. So when you can reframe what somebody thinks that they want to hear into truth, stay calm, stay confident, you're going to make a huge difference in your own life. I challenged my own team and I'll challenge you with this before we close up. Pick a partner. Whether it is yourself, whether it is within your family, maybe your partner, your spouse, your children, maybe it's with your referral partners, a realtor, all realtors, or with clients, and spend the next couple weeks being impeccable with all the words that you say in that space. And I promise you, if you whittle away at that one by one and getting stronger with how you deliver, and you take a deep breath and stay calm in how you speak and what you say and how you say it and how much it matters, how much it can build or erode, you will absolutely transform not only your stress level and your internal joy and trust within yourself, but you will transform your entire business. If this episode was helpful, I hope that you share it. We'll see you on the next Wild.